Excellencies, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, Seoul Bioeconomy Forum 2023 will begin shortly, so please come into the hall and take your designated seat. As a courtesy, please make sure your mobile phones are switched into vibration or silent mode. Also, for your convenience, simultaneous interpretation service will be provided for your information. So please set your receiver to channel 1 for Korean and channel 2 for English. Once again, please set the interpretation receiver to channel 1 for Korean and channel 2 for English. Also, if you need a certificate of participation in today's forum, you may download it at my page at official website after today's forum. For online attendees, please leave your registered email in YouTube comments and you will be able to download it after your attendance is processed. Please participate in this satisfaction survey via QR code on the back side of the program book. Also, we regret to announce that Joseph Penata, originally scheduled as a speaker, representative of Biocom California, is unfortunately unable to attend due to his health circumstance. Instead, Senior Vice President Frederick First will be joining us here today. We sincerely appreciate for your cooperation. Excellencies, all our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Seoul Bioeconomy Forum 2023. It is my great pleasure and huge honor to stand before you all as your Master of Ceremony for this meaningful forum today. On behalf of the Secretariat of Seoul Bioeconomy Forum, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to our distinguished guests for taking your valuable time to be with us in spite of your busy schedule. Seoul Bioeconomy Forum 2023 is held for sharing global and local issues and strategic discussion centered on keywords such as bioeconomy hegemony, digital bio, and bioclusters to present the future direction of biohealth industry as a national growth engine. It will be such a meaningful time to explore diverse ways for national biocluster to develop into international community with our esteemed leading domestic and foreign scholars under the theme of global linking bioclusters driven by digital biotechnology. Today, we have a special speakers, so many speakers here, including representatives from world-class organizations and companies such as Biocom California and iPark Institute and Cancer Success Academy Health Science Network. We regret to announce that once again that Joseph Panetta, originally scheduled as a speaker representative from Biocom California, is unfortunately unable to attend this forum due to his health circumstance. Instead, Senior Vice President Frederick Furt will be joining us. Thank you for coming, and we sincerely appreciate for your cooperation and kind understanding. Today's forum will also feature a discussion on global biocluster competitiveness, a presentation on government's reorganization of its biocluster strategy, and 4 sessions on evolving bioclusters by rediscovering the value of connectivity. We look forward to your active participation and diverse opinion and hope that today's forum will be a springboard for a better future for biohealth industry. Without any further ado, now let's begin Seoul Bioeconomy Forum 2023, which is hosted by the Ministry of Health and Welfare and organized by Daegu Gyeongbuk Advanced Medical Industry Promotions Foundation, Osung Medical Innovation Foundation, and Korea Health Industry Development Institute. All right then, first I would like to introduce the guests who have given their valuable time for this meaningful opening ceremony. When I call out their name, please give them a huge round of applause. 네, 오늘 귀한 시간 내어 자리해 주신 많은 분들이 계십니다. 한 분 한 분 소개를 해드리면 큰 박수로 환영해 주시기 바랍니다. 네, 이 시간 보건복지부 박민수 제2차관님께서 소중한 시간 내어 주셨습니다. 환영의 박수 부탁드립니다. Please welcome Ms. Park, the Second Vice Minister, Ministry of Health and Welfare.
Second Vice Minister.
감사합니다. 이어서 이원욱 국회의원님께서도 함께 자리해 주셨습니다. Member of the National Assembly of the Republic of Korea. Welcome. 네, 감사드립니다. 이어서 국민의힘 원내부 대표와 국회 보건복지위원회 위원을 맡고 계시는 조명희 의원님 소개해드리겠습니다. Deputy Whip of the People's Power Party. Please welcome 명희 Jo. Thank you for coming. 감사드립니다. 이어서 한국보건산업진흥원 차순도 원장님께서 함께 자리해 주셨습니다. Korea Health Industry Development Institute President 순도 차. Welcome. 감사합니다. 이어서 오송첨단의료산업진흥재단 차상훈 이사님 소개해드리겠습니다. Chairman of K-Biohealth 상훈 차. Welcome. 네, 이어서 대구 경북 첨단의료산업진흥재단 양진영 이사장님 환영해 주시기 바랍니다. Chairman of 대구 경북 Advanced Medical Industry Promotion Foundation. 감사합니다. 네, 보건복지부 정은영 보건정책국장님 함께 소개해드리겠습니다. Ministry of Health and Welfare Division of Healthcare Research and Development 은영정. Thank you. 네, 끝으로 본 포럼을 주최해 주신 서울 바이오이코노미 포럼 공구위원장님 함께 소개해드리겠습니다. Please welcome huge round of applause. Chairman Kugong Seoul Bioeconomy Forum. Thank you for coming and for your grace presence today. We will introduce presenter and panel shortly. While we wish we could all the speakers, everyone who has joined us here, due to time constraint, some introduction will be omitted. Thank you for your kind understanding. Now we officially begin the Seoul Bioeconomy Forum 2023. First, the chairman, Koo Gong, will deliver his opening remarks. Please welcome him onto the podium with a huge round of applause.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very beautiful morning, and it's such a great pleasure to meet familiar faces today. I am Chairman Kong-gu of Seoul Bioeconomy Forum, and I'm also professor at Hanyang University. First of all, I would like to thank all the participants joining us online and offline this morning. I would like to also express my gratitude to a lot of people. And first of all, I would like to extend my gratitude to somebody who has given us continuous support for an extended period of time. Member of the National Assembly, Lee Won-wook, I would like to thank you for your sincere support. And Myung-hee Cho, member of the Health and Welfare Committee of the National Assembly, Min-soo Park, the second Vice Minister of the Ministry of Health and Welfare. Thank you very much for your support. As you're well aware, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are now seeing the emergence of very negative consequences of technology hegemony. Technology hegemony in health and bio industry is getting stronger and stronger. Technology hegemony in health and welfare industry, as we have all experienced, could threaten the security and safety of people around the world, and especially the citizens of nations that do not have technology for such as COVID-19 vaccine could be threatened. In the health and bio industry, we need breakthrough in our technology that could put an end to technology hegemony. Leading nations have engaged in bioclusters, connecting them across geographical boundaries, national boundaries, so that we can offer one-stop services in super-connected world. In response to bioclusters and also to promote innovation of national health and welfare technology, the Korean government has been working very hard in this end. And for Seoul Bioeconomy Forum 2023, this year's theme, Global Linking Bioclusters Driven by Digital Biotechnology, will be sharing the key models from the US, Japan, and we will also lay the ground for national innovation and breakthrough in this area. Especially, even though we are in the early stage, Mr. Fujimoto from iPark Institute of Japan and Senior Vice President Frederick Foltz from Biocom, California. These two speakers will help us find how bioclusters can support global hyperconnectivity and how we can get the most out of this platform technology. In the health industry, we have built research-based model, and we can compare to the UK example. And Mr. and Dr. Desmond Holden, CEO of Kent Surrey Sussex HSN, and Dr. Kim Jong-jae from Assam Medical Center will talk about the future direction for Korea's biohealth industry and research. And last but not least, we have to think about how the Korean government can connect the bio-clusters together and pull through technology innovation in this field. As you're well aware, Korean bio-clusters is divided into local regions and by ministries. We have about 50 small-scale bio-clusters. We need to bring them together beyond region and beyond national boundaries. And we need to bring the government ministries together to come up with a pan-government road blueprint for Korea's bio-cluster. And we have Dr. Kim Kang-nim, specially appointed professor from the Graduate School of Public Health of Yonsei University. He has extensive industry experience, and he has always dedicated himself to promoting innovation in healthcare industry. I would like to thank all the speakers for joining us today to share their insight and wisdom. And last but not least, in the Q&A session, we are going to talk about the bio-innovation and technology. And Professor Chung Jae-ho and President Chung Byung-sun will join us for the Q&A session. I sincerely hope today's forum can help us bring bio-clusters in Korea together in this world of hyperconnectivity so that we can have a clear blueprint for bringing these technologies together. I would like to once again thank all the participants for joining us today. And I would like to thank the organizers and sponsors of today's forum, President Cha Sun-do of KIDI and President Yang Jin-yok of KMI DHUB, and the President of K-Bio Health for joining us today. And I would like to also offer my sincere thanks to Mr. Kim Hyun-chul and Ms. Kim Kyung-won for their sincere support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairman Koo Kong. We really appreciate for your leadership and support for today's meaningful forum. Thank you. And next, Min-soo Park, the second Vice Minister of Ministry of Health and Welfare, will deliver a congratulatory address. So please welcome him onto the stage with big hands.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Vice Minister Min-soo Park of Ministry of Health and Welfare. I'd like to extend my sincere congratulations to the organizer of the Seoul Bioeconomy Forum. Now it's 6th year. I'd like to thank many guests who are joining us today, including Deputy Representative Jo Myung-hee, National Assemblyman of Lee Won-wook, and Chairman Shin Dong-gun of Health and Welfare Committee of the National Assembly of Republic of Korea, Senior Vice President Frederick Fultz of Biocom California. Thank you very much for joining us today. CEO and President Joseph Panetta was supposed to be here, but we heard that his health is at risk. So thank you so much for joining us today, and I wish his speedy recovery. Dr. Fujimoto Toshio of iPark Institute, Dr. Desmond Holden of Kent Surrey Sussex of AHSN, thank you, and I welcome you with all my heart. Would like to also thank Professor Kim Jong-jae, Professor Kim Kang-rip, and Dr. Chung Byung-sun, and Professor Chung Jae-ho for taking time out of their busy schedule to present and discuss. We also would like to express our special gratitude to KMDIHUB Chairman Yang Jin-young Daegu Advanced Medical Industry Promotion Foundation, Chairman Cha Sang-hoon of K-Biohealth or Medical Innovation Foundation, President Cha Sun-do of KHIDI. Thank you so much for organizing today's forum. The global market size of the biohealth industry is expected to reach about 3,700 trillion Korean won in 2026. This is more than 5 times the current level of the semiconductor industry. In the meantime, the government has announced strategy to create a new market for biohealth and plan to foster a global cluster of high-tech industry. To foster the biohealth industry as a growth engine that can replace the second semiconductor industry, we are doing our utmost effort. President Yoon Suk-yeol of Republic of Korea has proposed the goal of actively promoting the creation of Korean type of Boston cluster. During his state visit to the United States in April, he explored cooperation between Korea and U.S. cluster in Cambridge, Boston. In addition, Minister Cho Kyu-hong of Ministry of Health and Welfare also visited major clusters in the western United States in July to identify strategies to create a Korean-style biohealth innovation cluster. Once again, in order to create a biohealth industry and to facilitate its growth, the government is determined to boldly expand R&D investment, innovate research practices, innovate open platform through collaboration with world-class organizations and disruptive innovations in systems and framework. Today, we have invited distinguished speakers, first of all, from Biocom Californian American Bio Organization, Japan BioCluster, iPark Institute, and also AHSN, a network of research center hospitals in the UK, which will serve as a good examples of innovative strategy to foster biohealth. We also hope that today's forum will serve as an opportunity to further strengthen global cooperation with participating organizations to deregulate and also to establish a special committee. When the special committee is launched, the R&D work done in different ministries will be integrated, and also the barriers will be eradicated, and a way to support R&D activities will further be strengthened. And once again, our efforts to collaborate will be further activated, thus contributing to the R&D technology development. Once again, I hope that the meeting between Korea and the research centers in different countries will definitely strengthen our cooperation. During the afternoon session, we are going to host a special session to strengthen the global network of research centers between Korea and British research centers by sharing policies and experience. Once again, congratulations of the 2023 Seoul Bioeconomy Forum. I wish you a good health and happiness. Thank you.
Second Vice Minister Min-soo Park, thank you so much for your warm remarks. Really appreciate for your great contribution. All right, and next, Won-wook Lee, a member of the National Assembly of the Republic of Korea, will deliver congratulatory remarks for everyone. Please welcome him with a huge round of applause.
네, 안녕하십니까.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lee Won-wook, a member of the National Assembly of the Republic of Korea. Professor Kong-gu has given me a brief introduction. Well, based on our appearance, we look quite different from each other. Professor Kong looks much older than I do, and I thought about why that is the case. As a middle-aged scholar, he has the dignity and elegance deeply ingrained in his body, and I look still like an immature man. I'm kind of light in my character, and that's what makes me relatively younger in terms of looks. But Professor Kong and I are long friends. We work together to create Bio Big Data Forum, and we are both dedicated in promoting the importance of bio industry. So he's my mentor when it comes to bio industry. Not just today, but for all the events organized by Chairman Kong, I made it sure that I participate in those events in person. A long time ago, I had a chance to visit Singapore. And I told Professor Kong that I'm going to Singapore. And he told me that you should go to ASTA and Biopolis. That I believe it was 7 or 8 years ago. And as recommended, I visited those venues. And I learned what clusters are supposed to be like and what they're supposed to be doing. So 4 years ago, when I ran for my 3rd term, I declared that we're going to create a Korean-style bio-cluster in Dongtan. In the 2nd Dongtan new town, at the middle of this wonderful land, we have dedicated 250,000 square meters of space to be the next bio-cluster, following the one in Pangyo and Hannam, Osong. So we can be a part of the triangle of bio-clusters. And we saw the potential to become one of the bio-meccas in Korea. Dongtan, well, this land is coveted by many global companies. ASML and semiconductor global companies are actually asking me to give them this land, and I have been rejecting their requests because I'm saving this for bio-clusters in Dongtan. The fact that many global companies are interested in this land shows that this is a great spot to get access to great talent, the great educational environment available in Korea, where we can have easy access to talented young people. Well, I have promoted by neighborhood, and since we have the 2nd Vice Minister Park Min-soo here with us from the Ministry of Health and Welfare, please, I would like to ask you to remember this wonderful land that we have in Dongtan. I have been the member of the National Assembly 3 times, and I don't know how long I will be able to go along as the National Assemblyman. So, well, I'm more interested in public interest rather than my personal interest at this stage in my political career. So I want to promote once again that Dongtan is a wonderful place, has the best location to serve as the leading bio-cluster in Korea. So once again, I would like to congratulate you on Seoul Bioeconomy Forum 2023. And I'm a member of the National Assembly Unification Committee, and we have a meeting starting at 10, so I have to leave now. I would like to ask for your understanding.
Thank you, Won-Eun Lee. We deeply appreciate for your sincere support and leadership. Thank you. And next, Myung-hee Jo, Deputy Whip of People's Power Party, a member of the Health and Welfare Committee, will deliver her congratulatory remarks for everyone. Please welcome her with a warm round of applause.
Hello, everyone. Well, Honorable Lee Won-wook have already left, and he has been nominated for 3 times, and he didn't even read his speech, and I have to read my speech. So let me introduce myself once again. I am Jo Myung-hee, member of the National Assembly of Republic of Korea, and I belong to the Health and Welfare Committee. I'm really, truly happy to see all of you. So Gonggu is a very unique name. Once you hear it, you will never be able to forget it. And also, I forgot to mention Vice Minister Bang Min-soo of Ministry of Health and Welfare. We always meet him frequently whenever we have the Health and Welfare Committee. Thank you so much. He's extremely capable and competent. And frankly speaking, we have Minister Cho of Health and Welfare, but I believe that medical and healthcare work is done by Vice Minister Park. So I'm truly grateful for everything he does. Chairman Chasundo, President Chasundo, thank you so much for arranging today's forum. And also my neighbor, Chairman of Daegu Gyeongbuk Advanced Medical Industry Promotion Foundation. I'm very pleased to see him. Well, I'm trying to get re-elected next time from the Daegu district, so I'm working hard. And also Chairman of Osong Medical Innovation Foundation. Osong, you are dominating everything in anything related with health and medical field. Please also give some opportunity to Daegu Gyeongbuk area. Well, I am not born as a Christian, but as soon as I was born, my whole family is related with the medical field. He was the president of the School of Medicines and majored in chemistry. And also, my dad always brought white mouse at home to do a lab test. And I saw numerous rats for the laboratory test. And there are more than 11 medical doctors in our families. So I spent my whole career and also my whole life surrounded by medical doctors. I actually majored satellite. And I served as professor for more than 3 decades at the School of Engineer. But then I was nominated as a member of the Health and Welfare Committee, and I joined the Health and Welfare Committee. I've been teaching satellite for a long time, but there are no job vacancy. So finally, in 2020, I created this special committee. So I am paying at the most more than 80 people at a startup company, but minimum number was 3, but it was increased to 80. But now working as the National Assembly, they are talking a lot about the double income family, that they don't have anybody to take care of their children. And then I come to the National Assembly and I was severely attacked by the opposition party members. And now I try to get rid of all the conflict of interest, but I'm doing my best to work in the field of the health and welfare as a member of the Health and Welfare Committee. I've been working in different standing committee, and Health and Welfare Committee is the committee that I've been working the longest time. And even if I'm re-elected, I want to join the Committee of Health and Welfare. Why? As you get older and older, the most important thing in your life is health. Ever since I was young, a child, I've heard enough about health and medical field, and I know that everything should be more focused on the real world. So ICT Integrated Convergence Forum, I am deeply involved in that. In case of the Bio Forum, more than 85 billion amount of the data are accumulated by the government. So Ministry of Health and Welfare and also Health and Welfare Committee has the gigantic amount of the data. And we had a subcommittee and we talked about the issue of the remote health care, and there are such a huge conflict of interest, and you know that we suffered a lot when we tried to legislate and pass the law related with the nurses, and once again there are huge challenges that we need to overcome. We are moving toward the digitalizations. Everything is based on IT platform. Even though we are transforming ourselves and entering into digitalization era, still the members of the Health and Welfare Committee and also the Digital Convergence Committee, they are not familiar with this sector, and I need to narrow down the gap. So I'm trying to legalize the semi-permanent cosmetic tattoo, and more than 1 million work in the field, but the semi-permanent cosmetic tattoo is illegal in Korea, and I'm doing my best to make it legalized. So I don't want anybody who underwent the semi-permanent cosmetic tattoo to become people who committed illegality. I want to make sure that it become a legal work, so that people working in this field can work with peace in their minds. I also work at a special committee in the semiconductor area and also digital asset committee. I'm the vice chairman. I play diverse role. From 2011, we did digital coins already, but the government is not taking care of that. A lot of accidents happens, and Health and Welfare Committee, we have tons of work to be done. We have this remote medical service work to be ironed out, and also there are other policies that needs to be settled down. So Health and Welfare Committee have a lot of work to do, but I believe that the member of the National Assembly, they try to resolve everything through politics. And one of my foremost promises or commitment that I have made when I was elected as the National Assemblyman was to make the space agency as a more sound ministry, and I promise that I will make sure to realize the commitment that I have made. We have with us Chairman of the K-Bio Health, and please remember that KMEDI Hub is also working really hard. No matter what it is, even these are petty things, I'll do my best to make it sure to produce result once it's handed over to the Health and Welfare Committee. I am not a born politician, but I'm trying to serve all the Korean nationals. I wish you health and welfare. Thank you.
Please give her another big round of applause. Thank you so much. It was great and warm remarks. Thank you, Myung-hee-jo. Right, and lastly, we'd like to introduce the congratulatory video clip message from Dong-gun Shin, the chairperson of Health and Welfare Committee. Due to unavoidable circumstance, Chairperson Shin sent a special video congratulation message. So please welcome him on the screen.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Shin Dong-gun, Chairperson of Health and Welfare Committee of the National Assembly. Congratulations on the opening of Seoul Bioeconomy Forum 2023. I would like to thank everybody who has put together this wonderful forum and all the participants. Digital biotechnology, global linking bioclusters driven by digital biotechnology. The theme of this forum will definitely help us to draw a clear picture for the bio industry as one of the leading growth engine for the Korean economy. The countries around the world are competing fiercely over health and biotechnology. Korea needs to be one of the leaders and hub countries in global bio industry. I sincerely hope today's forum help us find the opportunities in that regard. I look forward to various ideas to enhance the competitiveness of Korea in biohealth industry. I wish you the best of luck and health in all of your
Please
endeavors.
give him a big
Thank
round
you
of
very
applause
much.
once again for this meaningful message. We can feel his warm support. And we will now have a short photo session with our distinguished guests and moderator and speakers home and abroad. So please come onto the stage, followed by guardians of our staff. Once again, I'd like to invite all our esteemed speakers, moderator, and panelists. Excellencies, distinguished guests, please come onto the stage all together. Thank you very much for taking your valuable time. Really appreciate for your grace presence. Well, it's gonna be really meaningful and wonderful picture. Thank you very much. This is time for a commemorative photo shoot with all the speakers and esteemed panel moderator. There are a lot of cameras, so please make big smile. You ready? 3, 2, 1, smile. Please give them a big round of applause. Why don't we make a big applause all together? Right, yes, that's great. All right, once again. All right. Big applause all together once again. Close taking a look front camera, especially at the center of the camera. We done? All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Please remember this such a meaningful and wonderful moment we shared today. Please take your seat once again, followed by guidance of our staff. Thank you very much for your help. Right, this is the end of the official opening ceremony of Seoul Bioeconomy Forum 2023. Seoul Bioeconomy Forum 2023 is organized into 4 sessions with total of 5 presentations. After all session has ended, there will be a roundtable and Q&A followed. If you have any questions about any presentation, please leave any comment or opinion on YouTube and use the Q&A session to ask your questions. Introducing today's first session, Dr. Toshio Fujimoto, President of iPark, and Mr. Frederick Fritz, Senior Vice President of Biocom, California. They prepared the presentation under the concept of connecting the world. First, we'd like to invite Dr. Toshio Fujimoto, CEO of iPark, to have a presentation titled of Building Biotech Ecosystem in Japan and Future Collaboration with Korea. So please welcome him with a huge round of applause.
Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. Thank you. 여러분 안녕하세요.
한국어로
저는 후지모토라고 합니다. Thank you for inviting me in this session. It is my honor to be here and talk about potential collaboration with you to build a thriving ecosystem, bioclusters together. So now that, how to here? No? How to proceed? Sorry. Next here. Thank you very much. Sorry, it is written in English, but I didn't read. So here, now that COVID pandemic becomes periodic endemic, what have we learned from this terrible experience? In Japan, actually, we were shocked by the fact that no effective vaccines, medicines, treatment were developed from Japan timely. Why was that? It was because of the lack of innovative startups such as Moderna and BioNTech. Innovative research and technologies now born in academia and universities are nurtured in startups and transferred to big companies, pharmaceutical companies, by licensing or M&A. Such innovation ecosystem was not well developed in Japan. That was which we have learned. Actually, the model of drug discovery and research development has changed dramatically in the last decades. Please look at the left figures. emerging biopharma, which means small startups and mid-sized biotech companies, accounts for 80% of the drug pipeline they are developing. So all the world's drug pipeline candidates are being developed by these emerging biopharma, small startups and mid-sized biotech companies. And these trends are becoming more and more stronger. Here, please look at the right figures. Even consolidating all drug pipelines together in big companies. Here, even top 10 companies accounts for only 5% of the all drug candidates in the world. And that number has been reduced in half, less than half, in the last decade. So less of the drug pipelines are currently developed by small startups and mid-sized biotech. That is the current trend in the world. And what made this change? Here, it is the diversification of modalities. So drug is now have multiple modalities, technologies. From small molecules, so until 1990, majority of the drugs are small molecules, pills and injections. But now, many blockbusters, world-selling drugs are here. Biologics, as you know. And then currently, all the world drug candidates, I think the number would be 200,000 maybe, and 30% of these drug pipelines are dominated by new modalities, cell and gene therapy, nucleic acid drugs, and peptide drugs. So new modalities are coming. And then that era is advancing further. Here, the combination of diverse technologies are happening in the world. AI, digital, device. Yeah. For example, drug with AI, drug with application, drug with robots, drug with catheter. Many technologies are combining and merging together in healthcare industry. So in order to make innovation happen, startups are necessary. And many startups are emerging in cities listed here. This is the top 20 cities where startups are emerging. Boston, San Diego, San Francisco, Singapore, and many European cities. And in these cities, diverse talents and technologies are connecting and merging. And innovative products and services are brought to patients as a result. These cities with rich ecosystem have 6 elements in common, listed below. Oh, sorry. Startups, many startups, and risk funding, rich risk funding, and talents, STEM talents, and publication, knowledge, infrastructure like incubators, and lastly, innovation-friendly regulation and policies. So all the different cities have 6 elements in common. And as a result, biotech innovation is now happening. So looking at the risk investment in the world, so these are the last 5 years figures. So investment from VC, venture capital, or corporate VCs for biotech startup companies. The blue bar is the US. So US far beyond the top. So in the last 2022, so $41.8 billion for biotech companies in the US, startup companies in the US. In comparison, the red one is Japan, $0.8 billion for startups in their investment, only 2%. It is too small. And yellow one is China, and blue one is Europe. So this is the risk investment. And looking at each startup company, how is the fundraising? Here. The size of the fundraising in each startups in comparison between US and Japan. Japan is in the middle. So as you can see, from $10 million to $30, $40 million, and in comparison, the US startups fundraising about $300 million, $600 million, so 10 to 20 times higher. And this is reflected on the level of risk-taking and the speed of the research and development. We should improve that. Meanwhile, neighboring Asian countries, as you can see here, are making remarkable strides. I know Korean government has positioned the biopharm industry as an important pillar of economic growth and is focusing on startup incubation, fostering startups, and country-led industrial clusters and facilities, such as K-Biohealth, have been established to form an ecosystem, and numerous unicorns have been born. The amount of startup fundings in South Korea is around $1.8 billion now, which have surpassed greatly that of Japan. We would like to learn from you how you have achieved this. 마루해 주세요. To improve the situation, here, we IPARC started 5 years ago in Japan with a mission and vision here. Our vision is to bring innovative ideas into society, products, and then with a mission to build a life science ecosystem open to the world, connected to the world. Our facility was previously a research center for Takeda, which was built more than 10 years ago. 2011, the building was built as a Takeda's Central Research Center. And just 5 years ago, 2018, we opened it for external companies, startups, and many companies to create a Shonan IPARC, Open Innovation Hub. And just this year, to become more neutral facility and neutral to provide a more neutral service, diverse service, we established an independent company, IPARC Institute, which is an operating company for Shonan IPARC. And you can see the photo of our building, so huge that with a land of 220,000 square meters. Actually, it is the second biggest building in Japan. Do you know which is the first? The first is Narita Airport, actually. We are providing 5 major activities. First is the providing high-quality research facility and research support. And second is attract diverse companies from small startups to big companies and other technologies as well to enrich ecosystem. And third is to promote academic, industry, public partnership and with local community as well. And fourth, incubating startup companies, ventures, and lastly, provide platform service to accelerate research. These are our activities. So it is our facility. You can come and see here, attractive, high-quality research equipment lab and offices together. Like, I heard that some of you have been to Singapore, Biopolis, and it is similar. Similar facilities are here. And also with very attractive interactive space where researchers can interact beyond companies, like cafeteria, bar, and libraries, gym, and many attractive spaces for interaction there. And we facilitate many activities for researchers to interact, such as like Science Cafe. It is a journal club. More than 30 companies are joining, and more than 100 researchers are weekly discussing one article they choose, and discuss the topic. So that since the opening of IPARC, more than 5 years, they are doing this weekly. And business, we facilitate leadership club, which is the gathering of the leadership. CEO of the startups and the senior leadership of the big companies are gathering periodically together to form a partnership. And then thirdly, even after work, we support activities like recreation club, such as ping pong club or yoga club, to facilitate researchers beyond the companies interact together. with these, the many partnerships are being created. And we partner with local cities and the government as well. 5 parties agreement we made to build an innovation biohub in Shonan. And new train station will be built in 10 years. So after 5 years, we have now more than 100 tenant companies, mainly life science companies, plus 60 membership companies. Members are not having lab or offices at iPark, but joining event at iPark. So more than 160 companies are joining iPark. And as a staff, or not staff, as a people working at iPark, more than 2,400 people are actually working at iPark, and mainly majorities are researchers. So looking at the companies, from big companies, Takeda, Tanabe Mitsubishi, Kirin, and more than 40 startup companies, life science companies, and supporting companies like CROs, and medtech companies, AI companies, many are gathering together. So this is just a concept. The left circle are the status 5 years ago. Only Takeda was the anchor, big companies 5 years ago. iPark started from Takeda, and there were only small number of Takeda-related companies initially 5 years ago. But now, on the right, Takeda was the only anchor at that time, but now many more anchor companies are located at iPark. And they are driving many independent partnerships with diverse companies. We're becoming more and more neutral place to catalyze partnership. And that is the major reason that iPark spun out from Takeda, to provide diverse services and catalyze a neutral, to be neutral, to catalyze more partnerships. So as a result, the number of collaborations are exponentially increasing. First year, only 18 collaborations, research partnership, business partnership, but increasing. And now, 2022, last year, more than 2,100 partnerships are made between tenant companies at iPark. So we are based on the one hypothesis: co-location accelerates collaboration. And this figures, I think, has proven the concept. So the last slide. Again, the biopharmaceutical industry is now losing its boundaries and combining with other technologies such as AI, digital, medtech, food tech, and green tech. We need a thriving ecosystem where diverse talents and technologies can connect. So is there any way to cooperate in Asia, especially between Korea and Japan, to grow startups and new industries before aiming for success in the US market? Such collaboration will enrich the diversity of innovation and eventually benefit patients globally, I believe. Thank you very much. 감사합니다.
Thank you so much, Dr. Toshio Fujimoto. And thanks to your informative presentation, we were able to learn about the concept of ecosystem detail. All right then, and next, we would like to introduce Mr. Frederick Fritz, the Senior Vice President of Biocom California, to have a presentation titled of California's Life Science Ecosystems and Bio-Communities. He's already on the podium, so please give him a big round of applause to welcome.
Hello, 감사합니다.
여러분 안녕하십니까? 감사합니다.
Thank you, Dr. Fujimoto, our
Fujimoto,
friend, longtime friend of Biocoms, and
대표님
Joe Panetta, our
감사드립니다.
CEO.
바이오컴의 오랜 친구,
I heard
자매
Mr.
기관이기도
Panetta's name
한데요.
a couple times, so maybe I will address the situation. Mr. Panetta, our CEO for 25 years, Biocom California, is okay, very healthy guy, always very healthy, but had a medical incident last week from flying with a blood clot, so he is okay, but maybe 2 or 3 months not going to be able to fly with medication. So I just spoke with him. He is very healthy, but will not be able to join us today, and unfortunately probably not on our trip to Japan and Korea in October, but soon after that, we will see Joe back here and back in Japan very frequently. So Joe gives his regards to everybody and apologies, and unfortunately you're stuck with me. Hope that will be okay, but Mr. Panetta is doing well and really appreciates everybody's concerns and regards that have been given this week. So thank you for that. I would like to start, first of all, Dr. Fujimoto gave some great points about some of the ingredients that make bioclusters successful, and those are true worldwide. They are true in America, they are true in Japan, and from what I have already gathered here in Korea, they are true here. So we will talk about those a little bit, and I welcome conversations after this presentation about those. And my translator friend, if I'm going too fast, she can just tell me, but I think we're okay. So really, when you look at a successful life science ecosystem or cluster, and I'm not talking about an entire country, really the smaller clusters that exist in Japan, in the United States, and here in Korea, there are common elements that are essential for them to work. And there's a lot of ways to look at them, but the way we look at them is world-class academic and research institutions, a pipeline of talent, government and elected official support, access to capital that can be government and non-dilutive capital, but also private and public dilutive capital, service sector providers that can support the industry well, and a collaborative environment. So, and I would add one more, which would be facilities, right? The iPark facility is incredible, and it does not happen with investment into world-class facilities and an environment that is conducive to discovery. With that in mind, I would say of these issues, or of these items, in my opinion, geography and the talent are the most important. So geography is not on here, but it is the facilities, it's the transportation, it's good living conditions for your smartest and brightest leaders. In the United States, it's a little different than Korea. We kind of have our clusters, our world-class clusters on the coasts, along the water, on the East Coast and the West Coast. In Korea, it's more from Seoul outward, but it's the same concept. The concept is where you can have the brightest minds want to live and want to work. It is a very key part of a cluster. So there are no biotech clusters in the middle of the country in the United States or Australia or other parts like that, because the people will not live there. The scientists, the leaders that make this so essential. So outside of the things that we can control, some of the things that are bigger are where do people want to live? And in the United States, it's along the coasts, but it can be different geography, so just kind of pointing out the obvious there. Seoul is obviously a very preferential place to live and work, and therefore the most likely successful clusters will be in and around Seoul, as I'm sure that's not news to anybody here. You know, and again, I say that because there are world-class academic institutions throughout the United States in just about every state. So it's really not the academic institutions alone that create viable life science clusters. You need these other components which do not exist everywhere in every country. Japan is the same way. There are very finite, distinct clusters. There are other academic institutions that are really well respected, but it's some of these other things that are populated in Yokohama, Kobe, Tokyo, et cetera, that make sense. Same thing in the United States. From my short time here in Korea, I see similar traits. There are a lot of biotech clusters beginning to form throughout the country, but some are likely going to be more successful than others. In my opinion, from all of these, it will be a lot of it based on where the highly educated workforce would prefer to live. So a little different take on cluster development. So I'm going to talk about each of these areas, and glad to, again, discuss them later in the Q&A, but just as a little background for the United States biotech clusters, there are 3 top-tier world-class clusters: San Francisco, San Diego, and Boston. And yes, I work for Biocom California, so I listed them in that order. San Francisco, San Diego, Boston. Perhaps somebody might list them in a different order, but my apologies. We do compete a little bit with our friends in Boston. There are second-tier clusters: North Carolina, Research Triangle, Seattle, the Los Angeles, Orange County area, and the New York, New Jersey tri-state area. Those are the 7 main clusters. There are some developing in Houston, Atlanta, Washington, D.C. area, but the main ones are the ones I stated there. And each of them actually do share some very similar characteristics. The geography, the desirable place to live for highly educated people, absolutely. Every one of them has multiple world-class academic and research institutions that are really the engine of the innovation that comes out of these clusters. Dr. Fujimoto made a great point about how innovation is coming to market. It's not from early research of big companies, and we see that too. And so academic institutions and smaller biotechs are the key to innovation. And so you have to have some academic institutions. In San Diego, where we are headquartered, we are very fortunate not only to have UCSD, which is a world-class institution, but some of the top independent research institutions in the world: the Salk Institute, Scripps, Sanford Burnham, are world-class research institutes. An incredible amount of IP comes out of those. Related, because obviously a lot of tomorrow's workforce is coming out of top universities, having an access to a pipeline of talent, highly educated, well-trained in today and tomorrow's science, having them nearby and wanting to live there is critical. So I have been incredibly impressed with the universities and the talent in Korea, and so there is no shortage of talent, which is very important. But again, where they end up wanting to be is an important part of the equation. Government and elected official support. The support from the Korean government is light years ahead of the United States. It's incredible. Everybody that we've come across within the different departments of the Korean government have been incredibly supportive and thoughtful about growing this important industry. And we don't always have that in the United States. We kind of have to fend for ourselves. That part is definitely check the box in Korea. It's really good. And obviously, it's not a question of if we should support this incredible industry, it's how do we do it. That is the question here in Korea, and we're glad to help with that. Access to capital. I think there is a growing, strong private investment, life science specific investors in Korea, which is great. And obviously there's public markets and government investment as well. And in the United States, while the government is not always great with supporting from policy perspective, there is ample capital. The NIH, new programs like from the Biden administration, ARPA-H, which I believe Korea is attempting to perhaps have an ARPA-H starting next year. I believe those are discussions that are happening. That is an incredible idea. Very helpful in the United States for funding. Service sector providers. We have incredible law firms and organizations like Thermo Fisher Scientific, Illumina, who provide tools for the industry. You have to have that connection. And again, they tend to focus in the same clusters that we are talking about here. And finally, most importantly, in my opinion, is a collaborative environment. So the one thing I will say about San Diego in particular, it is the most collaborative, the strongest collaborative environment for life science clusters that I've seen in the world. Everybody works together. Everybody is trying to cure cancer and solve Alzheimer's, and they are working together. There is always a little bit of competition over talent and resources, but the collaborative spirit is incredible, and it is something that should not be understated. Everybody is competitive. Countries are competitive with each other. Companies are competitive with each other. It's natural, but if companies as a whole, as a mini cluster, if you will, can put down some of that and collaborate, that to me has been what has made San Diego in particular, a pretty small city comparatively in the United States, be a world-class cluster, is that collaborative spirit. So there is really a lot to that part, and something that I know the Koreans have, and that's good. That's a good thing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of these clusters. Just like Dr. Fujimoto said, about his clusters, we are proud of the California clusters. They are really, some of the best ones in the country and in the world. So I will talk about that a little bit, but about the collaboration, one more comment. The support organizations that we have in the United States, Biocom California being one of them, really play a critical role in that collaboration. My organization puts on 200 events a year, so we are very familiar with events like this. We produce 200 a year. I will say that the groups that we have come across in Korea are fantastic supporters. And so just, sorry if I'm bad with a name, but some of our friends that we have met even this year are very, very good at supporting these organizations, and it's going to bear fruit in the future. In no particular order, I apologize. So President Sundu Cha from KIDI, the KIDI folks do an incredible job supporting this industry. Chairman No from KPBMA has spent time with us in San Diego, and their organization does a great job with people. Vice Chair Seung Kyo Lee from Korea Bio, our friend we just met with yesterday. And of course, Director General Jung, who may have left the room, and Minister Cho also visited us in San Diego. I think between the government and K-Bio, K-BIC, KIST, Korea Bio, BioKorea, K-Bio, all the different letters, they really do an incredible job supporting the companies, and that is important. Okay, so that is part of the collaborative environment and service sector support. So it takes some time to figure out exactly how to support companies, but I can tell you from our experience that these groups that we talked about are really doing a great job, and you're on your way towards building an incredible world-class cluster. So just maybe special thanks to them. They've been very welcoming to us from Biocom California, but it's really cool to see how well they support these organizations. So that is a critical part of things. And obviously our friends, my friend Hyungjung Kim and Nari Lim have also been incredibly accommodating to help connect us with some of these organizations. I think we will look forward to continuing to do that with you. So I know I will try to be brief here. I will not read this verbatim for you. Every year we do an economic impact report, which quantifies the economic activity derived from the life science industry in California. As you may know, California is the 4th largest economy in the world by itself, and in the life science market, it could potentially be the largest cluster if you put them all together. So all of this is available to you, and I'm happy to explain any of this. We actually have 90 pages of information on every city and county in California and what they produce. I will not go into that, but I will say that, like I mentioned before, the investment from the U.S. government via the NIH and the NSF, and I know there are equivalents here in Korea that are making investments. This is really the critical monetary foundation for life science success, is this non-dilutive funding from NSF and NIH. And so I will show, let's see, I will show. Okay, so for California, just for California, there was $5.41 billion of investment. So the most by any state. I believe it's close to 20% of the entire country's NIH investment went to California companies in 2022. You can see these are all in US dollars. The total labor income is $130 billion. And there are 1.2 million jobs created for the life science industry in California. So it's a very important industry for our state. And it also can explain why a lot of the patents, 1,661 patents in 1 year from California companies in the life science field is a lot of innovation coming out of California. And I will say this, actually I'll save it for the end. So you can see we have 500,000 direct employed and almost 1.2 million employed from kind of the service organizations and the support organizations. The report is lengthy, but it does dive into things like housing and transportation and where people like to reside. And so I am hopeful that this will be, can be helpful information for those who are planning life science clusters here in Korea. There are some successful ones already. We were at Seoul BioHub yesterday, and there's some great activity already going on there. And KBIC and some of these other ones we talked about. It's already starting some really good mini clusters within the Seoul area. And I know there's innovation in GGP and beyond too. So hopefully these can be a blueprint for that. So this is a little bit overkill, detailed information, but glad to discuss it further. Again, you can see the amount of funding for California is quite high. And so, sorry, if I can go back maybe. You can see it compared to the other major clusters that we talked about, Boston, New York, New Jersey area, and the Maryland, DC area. We're significantly higher in patents and funding and all that stuff. And I am from New York and New Jersey, so it's okay if I make fun of them a little bit. Okay. And so just briefly, I think everybody may know this in the room, but there are 4 major clusters in California. 4 of the top 20 in the country are in California. The biggest one in the entire country is the Bay Area. Genentech is the first ever big biotech company founded in the Bay Area. And basically, as Dr. Fujimoto talked about anchor tenants, Genentech is the mother of all anchor tenants for biotechs. They've been there a very long time, I think 40 years in the Bay Area, and there are thousands of companies that have circled Genentech over the years. So another important part of a successful cluster is an anchor and really an industry anchor. And that's because of the talent and the IP that goes in both directions. An anchor is a critical part. In the Bay Area, it was Genentech. In San Diego, it was Hybertech, and on and on. Los Angeles is not quite as big, as you can see, but obviously a very big city, but not quite as big a life science cluster. Something a little different about our life science clusters is in the United States, they do not reside in the urban environments. So I think that's just a cultural thing. For every one of these, Boston, San Diego, San Francisco, they actually reside kind of on the outskirts of the city where there's more space for labs and for collaboration. Obviously, I think that's more cultural because people want to be in Seoul. That's the premier destination to be. So I don't think that an urban mini cluster is out of the out of the equation. I think it's very possible. I just think it's not quite the culture in the United States for that. New York City has tried, LA has tried, and it's not as successful as having a little more space right near the airports and the city and the talent that comes from that. And so this is a little bit about Biocom, but I will not waste your time with that. We are very similar to Korea Bio and some of the other organizations in how we support our members. The collaboration and the support is very important, and so my only advice is keep doing it. The organizations that are, some are here in this room, and we will gladly work with you to better support Korean companies and build the bridges between Korea and the United States. We have been doing so in Japan for 12 years very successfully, and we are just starting out to do so in Korea, but everybody has been very welcoming. One final thing that Dr. Fujimoto mentioned about the biotechs being the key to innovation, and big pharma and big companies will just license or acquire to get that research. We see that in America too. So we had a meeting with KIST at Seoul BioHub yesterday, and they were asking, why won't big companies want to outsource research in Korea? We have all these talented people, which is very true. They do want to do that, but the way they want to do that is not to just have their own research, outsourced into South Korea. What they want to do is acquire and license innovative technology from biotech. So I would not say it's a failure in Korea that big pharma doesn't have big research arms here. It's just getting them knowledgeable about the incredible biotechs that are here. And that's happening. It's already happening. So Biocom California is committed to facilitating that, and I know many people in the room are as well. So we are looking forward to continuing to build bridges between the US and Korea, and specifically California. So I think I probably talked too much, so yeah, it's okay. Thank you, and 감사합니다. Glad to answer any questions anytime.
All right, thank you so much. Please give him another round of applause. With his informative presentation, we were able to find the crucial answers for California life science ecosystems and bio community. How can be a national growth engine? Thank you very much. Right then, and second session is called Connecting the Nation. So with this, I'd like to invite Dr. Desmond Holden, CEO of Kent Surrey Success, AHSN, to have a presentation titled of Academic Health Science Networks as a Bridge Between Discovery and Spread and Adoption of Innovation into Health and Care Pathway. All right, he's ready. Right, thank you. And please give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Des Holden from the UK, and I'm here to talk a little bit about academic health science networks. So 10 years ago, the NHS in England realised that a lot of innovation that was available was not getting into the pathways of care that the public were experiencing. So there were all sorts of delays between discovery and the benefit that the public were receiving from those discoveries. So 15 academic health science networks were created, and I lead the one down in the southeast of England, which serves about 5 million members of the public. It has 3 medical schools, it has 9 universities, it has a big coastal population, and in England coastal populations tend to be quite deprived, but it also has very good connections both into London and to Europe. So it's an interesting area. So the idea behind academic health science networks is really that they connect people who need to be connected to pull innovation through into care. So they connect academia, they connect business, they connect the providers of health and social care, and they connect citizens, and increasingly citizens are being a political word, people who live within the community. Connect them together to design and pull better solutions through into the marketplace and into the offerings that clinicians make to the public. So in its purest form, we would like to start with need. So we would like to understand what is the need that the public experience, and what is the need that providers of care, doctors, nurses, therapists, social workers have, so that we can help link industry and academia through to those needs to come up with creative solutions that can be evaluated, and if they serve their purpose, then spread into across the country and beyond. That's the ideal way in which we work. However, very often where we are is taking discovery, which is somewhere around the matchmaking, independent of the need, and then trying to retrofit the discovery back into the need that people have, which is, it can work very well, but it's not the purest way in which we work. So my organisation is about a £3 million per year organisation, quite small, 40 people in my particular team. And all of our money comes either from NHS England, or it comes from the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology. So part of our commission is to work with these organisations who are gateways for innovation into practice, and also often funding, and often the gateways of research studies. These are the people who come together to commission our services. We are a non-profit organisation. And then in addition to this list, we directly get funding to support industry, and much of the industry that we support is small industry and startup industry. So although we are connected as 15, and there are many programs we work on as 15 so that we cover the whole geography of England, the way in which we work is very local. So all of our connections are into those 9 universities within Kent, Surrey and Sussex. They're into the hospitals, they're into the local government that serves that 5 million population. So we create those networks and we nurture those networks. We build communities of public voice, and that's what we bring together with industry and with academics to help design better solutions. As a network, we also measure our impact, and I've put this slide in not to go through each point, but so that you can see. So we create jobs. By allowing companies and supporting companies to grow, those companies can create more jobs, and that is of value to the economy within England, so it's part of our purpose. We safeguard jobs. We also monitor how many people innovation is reaching, and sometimes that's quite difficult, and as a network we tend to say that people benefit from an innovation without necessarily knowing that that's true. And really what we're saying is we know the innovation is reaching care pathways, but we have to become more sophisticated to understand who are the people who are benefiting from that innovation and who are the people who are not benefiting. It's important to realize some of the limitation at the moment. But as you may know, there's a big call at the moment in the UK, particularly in England, for secure data environments. And I am supporting the creation of a secure data environment along the south coast of England, which is about 11 million people. And we're working both with academics, also with the public, but also with industry to see how that data can be used much more creatively to support measurement of benefit, but also so that industry can work and understand which of their innovations are working best and why. So AHSNs don't exist in a vacuum. We occupy the middle territory, so we are a bridge between academic research and discovery and the benefit and delivery of care that hospitals, community services, mental health services, local government, public health are all commissioned to supply. So we sit between and we support discovery, although we ourselves are generally not researchers, and we build the relationships with the people who are supplying care so that the discovery is visible to them, the evidence for the effectiveness of the discovery is visible to them, and they can own some of that research and pull the findings through into care. So we believe that pulling is far more efficient than trying to push solutions into a community that are not cited on the work that has been done. Oh, I'm sorry, this is somebody's slide that I borrowed. I'll just skip through. So there is a science and also an art to how we implement innovation. So discovery is not enough. It is not enough to say, here we have this fantastic thing. Usually, there needs to be a science around the implementation. So even with vaccines in COVID, where there was a huge desire to pull those vaccines through into communities. People were demanding vaccines in England, and I'm sure they were in your communities as well. It's not enough. And there are always, for everyone who is demanding that innovation, there are people who don't trust it, there are people who don't want to use it, and there are clinicians who don't want to take every single new thing into their practice. They want to stay with what they've grown up with and what they know. So there is a science around bringing discovery and innovation through into care pathways. And some of this science addresses some of the reasons why, left to its own devices, innovation doesn't spread as quickly as we would hope it would. So AHSN's work with industry in a particular way, through our commission, through what we are asked to do by the Government Department for Science, Innovation and Technology, any company who comes to us, we will help. So that is a free service. We will meet with them, we will listen to what they are offering, we will think about how that offer has a value and discuss the value proposition for the communities that we serve. So that's a free service. Over and above that, there's more and more specialist support that we and other members of the network of AHSNs can give to companies. So we don't all possess every bit of experience. There are some things that we are very good at in Kent, Surrey and Sussex. There are some things that we would refer to another academic health science network, either because of their connections or because of their expertise. Our journey as an AHSN is sort of shown on this slide. So 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, we were doing most of our work by far was those first meetings with companies. We were having a lot of first meetings. We were talking about the value of their proposition and their innovation. And we were not then forming a relationship with them. We gave them advice, they took the advice, and they went away and did whatever they did. Now we are growing the number of companies who we work with and go on a journey with, and it's not a single touch, it's a partnership. And that's a partnership when we apply for research money together, or it's a partnership in how we support them to meet and influence the purchasers of care and the commissioners of care, and also the clinicians who are offering care. So we are now able to work far more as a relationship with companies than we were to begin with. And that's reflected in some of the returns, which these are not in billions, these are a smaller scale, but we are supporting £1 million turnovers and more than that, and delivering that sort of uplift to the local biotech and health economy through the work we are doing with those companies. All AHSNs return their figures, and the way in which it's calculated centrally by NHS England, I couldn't go into, I don't understand the methodology. There are so many different economic models, but this is the accepted one that all AHSNs work to. So I said on a previous slide that we sit between discovery and the delivery of care. And one of the big funders for discovery in the UK is the National Institute of Health Research. And one of the ways in which they fund discovery is discreetly through applied research collaborations. Now, there are 15 academic health science networks. There are 15 applied research collaborations. We each serve the same geographies. So I work with Kent, Surrey and Sussex Applied Research Collaboration. And all of the arcs have discrete themes. So because we serve a population that is quite deprived, that is coastal, and although we have 3 medical schools, we don't have an Oxford, we don't have a Cambridge, we don't have an Imperial, which are in other parts of the country. The areas in which we support research are around primary and community care. So this is outside of hospital, community care, care in people's homes, care for the generalist primary care physician. We support social care research, and we support social care research for the country, not just for Kent, Surrey and Sussex. So we lead on that. We have policy research units for the government within Kent, and we have quite a good standing in terms of research in social care. And then in addition, we do quite a lot of research in mental health, and in particular we focus on children and young people's mental health and mental health in the elderly, so less so working age mental health, but the 2 other age extremes. So this is our area where we support discovery. And because we work in the way that I've described, as well as supporting the academics to be interacting with frontline staff and the public so that the questions that they are trying to discover answers to are relevant to the provision of care. As well as doing that, we also very much advertise that to the providers of health for Kent, Surrey and Sussex. So there are 3 big providers of health within Kent, Surrey and Sussex, and some of their senior staff sit on a panel to support what are the questions that research answers. So in this way, we try to make the research a capacity for the people who are commissioning healthcare to influence, so that the projects that are undertaken are relevant to the needs of the people who are living in Kent, Surrey and Sussex. So this is not discovery divorced from local need. It is discovery embedded in what the people need to have answers for. And that's how this part of the funding works. NIHR are big funders. They have a lot of programs. They have a lot of calls that are themed around various things. They support a lot of research infrastructure. And when it was known that I was coming to talk to you today, NIHR were very helpful in providing me with some slides, and they want you to know that they are there to support trials and access to funding within the UK for Korean companies. And I understand that there'll be a memorandum of understanding signed in a couple of months' time between the UK and South Korea. And I'm sure that NIHR would be a part of the offering that I hope you would feel attracted to, even though it's not who I work for, it's a partnership organisation within that slide I showed you earlier with a number of partners. So NIHR, very well thought of internally, and they command a very good network themselves. So they are good people to do business with for clinical trials because they can reach clinicians of all sorts. They've got a national reach, and their turnaround time for approving studies is becoming very, very competitive now at round about 2 months, 2.5 months. So attractive. So I've talked quite a bit about the generality of what we try to do. And I said to you very briefly that innovation reaches some people more easily than it reaches others. So within the UK and really across all societies that I am aware of, there is a divide of people who do very well out of health and social care and people who don't do so well, who that evidence-based offering isn't reaching. And we're thinking a lot about that now in Kent, Surrey and Sussex, and we're thinking a lot about it as a country. And so at the moment, the NHS is thinking for 5 major areas of illness, ill health. This is where the greatest inequality sits between the people who have relatively long life expectancy, relatively long lives unaffected by illness, and at the other end of the spectrum, people who live less long and live more of their lives with illness. And the big areas are cardiovascular, respiratory illness, mental health, cancer, and maternity. So in those areas, there's now a big program thinking about how can the benefits of good healthcare, evidence-based healthcare, be brought into those people who are not benefiting as much from them. How does the offer need to change? Is it a different offering, or is it the same offering made in a different way so that communities can trust it and access it? And this is where a lot of my thought is going at the moment, of how we do, when we're doing innovation, we are not leaving people behind. That's my last slide. This email address is for the network of AHSNs, and my contact details are in the materials. So please do get in touch with us if anything I've said is appealing or useful to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a great presentation. With this detailed presentation, we came up with a solution for connecting the nation based on the innovation into health and care pathway. Thank you very much. And next, the third session will around the theme that connecting the innovators. We would like to ask Dr. Jong-jae Kim, Professor of Asan Medical Center. He will give us a presentation on Digital Health R&D Platform of Asan Medical Center, a Korea research-driven hospital. All right, seems that he's ready, so please welcome him with a big hands.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank Chairman Kong-gu of Seoul Bioeconomy Forum and all the staff members for inviting me to this wonderful forum. And personally, it's a great opportunity for me to reconnect with so many familiar faces. Today, I will talk about what Asan Medical Center is doing to become a R&D platform. I won't be able to talk about national level R&D platform, but I will focus my presentation on R&D platform of research and development platform for medical centers, mainly focusing on what's happening at Asan Medical Center. So you might be able to understand what medical centers are doing around the country to become a R&D platform. In fact, health technology has been designated by the Korean government as one of the national growth strategic industry. And the hospitals, everybody agrees, need to play a key role in health technology. And hospitals are said to have a lot of talents, but when you look at the surrounding environment, legislative support, funding support, there is a lack of adequate support. The Korean government has thought about the best way to tackle this and has decided to designate research-driven hospitals around the country, and that happened 10 years ago. Through research-driven hospitals, these are our vision that we want to realize. We want to establish sustainable R&D system. Most of the hospitals are losing money through R&D, but we want to create an open platform R&D system that can be sustainable on its own and that can have a global impact for the health technology and the national economy as a whole. Asan Medical Center has 4 major research areas: new drugs, cell therapy, medical devices, and big data. Well, it sounds like we are doing everything. but each hospitals has hundreds of researchers. They are doing their own independent research, and while accommodating all their research and trying to align that with the R&D direction of the government, well, we basically came up with these 4 major research areas. And in our research-driven hospital project, we are aligning with these 4 major research areas, which constitute an unit by itself. Through research-driven hospitals, we are connecting 46 companies, 21 universities, and 14 research institutes. And more than 510 researchers are participating in this project. Per unit or per research task, we get more than 20 billion won of government support for each unit. And when you add the private contribution, the total R&D cost for unit 1 to 3 adds up to more than 130 billion won. And the local governments are keenly interested in this. Chuncheon, Halim University Hospitals, Busan National University Hospital, they are also giving us a lot of financial support. Through research-driven hospital, what are the unmet needs that we plan to satisfy? Unit 1, the key word for the unmet need was communication with patients. Patients have come back to hospital once in 3 months, and they spend the entire afternoon waiting and have just a 5-minute meeting with the physician. And just like the overall society, the population of our patients is growing elderly as well. So they are falling more. So Unit 1 is trying to satisfy these needs. Unit 2 is also focusing on how to care better for high-risk patients by cooperating and sharing our data with outside partners. So we have 3 units. Unit 1 focuses on digital therapy as a keyword. Unit 2 focuses on diagnosis kit, monitoring of ICUs or surgeries. Unit 3 is about data sharing. The supervisors for each unit, for Unit 1, it's Professor Kang, and for Unit 2, it's Professor Kim. For Unit 3, it's Professor Kim Young-hak. They are independent on their own, but they're also trying to achieve synergy between them. At the bottom, it's the logo of our research-driven hospital. But we got the comment that this looks like a logo of a National Election Committee, and I suggested that they change this, but they never do. This is the timeline of 3 units at Asan Medical Center. I think the biggest benefit of a research-driven hospital project is that we were able to develop ourselves into a brand. Some people point out the flaws in this, but this really set the foundation for one single team to do lasting innovation and R&D for a long period of time. Unit 1 is developing digital therapy as well as various devices. And they say that every 2 seconds, there is a stroke patient around the world. And in Korea, about 20,000 people suffer from visual impairment due to digital brain stroke. And this is a therapeutic developed for that. So I will skip through some slides. And based on 3D printing technology, we are developing 3D printing medical technology based on artificial intelligence modeling so that the surgeons can practice before they actually do the surgery to correct malformation. And 3D printing based no surgery prosthesis production can be made possible. And our radiopharmaceutical manufacture process. The second unit of our research is promoting the safety of our elderly patients from infection or from any possible risks of surgery. To the left-hand side, you will see a lot of equipment from many different manufacturers in a surgery room. If you look at the signals of this equipment, there will be so many monitors, actually dozens of those signals. But if you can integrate all the signals in one vendor-neutral monitor, that would be great, and we are testing that. And this is a disease screening AI platform and also fundus camera that can be attached to digital cameras or mobile devices. Unit 3 for data sharing. We are discovering new target for drug and also predicting drug response. And we are working with various companies and carrying out various projects. Our future goal, we believe there are two things that we need to do great research and change the international standards for therapy or create profit or added value. By doing that, we can create higher value technologies, directly or indirectly set up business, and also through collaboration with outside partners, we are trying to promote more added value technology. Thank you very much.
And next, to introduce to today's last session following World, Nation, and Innovator, it is time for Connecting Governments. Next, we would like to ask Dr. Kang-Nim Kim, specially appointed professor of Graduate School of Public Health Sciences University, to have a presentation on challenges of government policy for supporting biohealth industry in Korea. Please welcome him with a big hands.
I'm very pleased to meet you all, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot believe that my face is quite huge on the screen. I feel a little bit uncomfortable, but still, I have to just stay. I have taken part in the Seoul Bioeconomy Forum numerous times, and I usually join here delivering greeting remarks. But then I didn't realize that such a great presentation were given. I never knew that. Once again, thank you very much, Chairman Kong-gu of Seoul Bioeconomy Forum organizer, and also other people for giving me the opportunity to make a presentation, and also for arranging today's forum. And I have this huge responsibility on my shoulder to do my best to deliver the presentation that meets your needs. I really hope that my presentation can be a wake-up call to the Korean government to come up with better policies. But our greatest challenge is that the National Assemblyman, the policymaker, they need to understand, but they just gave a greeting remark and they all left. So my message were not delivered to them. And they are the one who must listen to my presentation anyway. I'm a bit concerned, but let me begin my presentation. Why do Korean government needs to realize and look at the value of the biohealth in a heightened manner? And compared to other countries, we need to work harder and pour more investment to further strengthen the bio industry. Why? Let me tell you the background. We have experienced COVID-19, and as we undergo by COVID-19, the value of biohealth industry has doubled and tripled. It enhanced the value of the economy and also created a lot of new jobs. And not only it vitalized the economy, of which we have already known, but it has taken a lot of limelight during the COVID-19. There was a new value that was highlighted during the COVID-19. We felt deeply that is biohealth industry, if we make an investment, not only heighten the value of the economy, but also it can protect the life and health of the Korean national, so we can enhance the health security. So biohealth industry play a pivotal role in enhancing the people's life eventually. And ever since the COVID-19 broke out, securing vaccine was a huge challenge for countries around the world. And I was in charge of securing vaccine during the COVID-19. And one of the biggest challenge was if we had competency to develop, produce, and spread the COVID-19 vaccine, that would be wonderful. But we weren't able to do that. I have already written here country name, but as we evaluate the experience that we had during the COVID-19, they are already preparing for the upcoming of the next pandemic. And they are already making preemptive investment. In case of United States, they have designated bio industry as a core industry, and Biden administration has already announced National Biotechnology and Biomanufacturing Initiative and has launched ALPA-H, an organization that is in charge of that. If you look at China and Japan, they are daring more challenging research. A private sector cannot do such audacious research, but China and Japan has launched a new infrastructure or a new cluster to develop a new bioindustry products and services. And now's the time that we need to also try to develop our capabilities. Another important factor is in Korea, as the aging population accelerates, which is unprecedented and you cannot find in other countries. I don't know if you have heard the news. The total fertility is 0.7 per couple. And last year, we recorded 0.8 and we were shocked. But it dropped further down. It's 0.7. And Korea is the only country whose total fertility rate is below 0.8. And it is highly likely there's concern that we will not even be able to meet 0.7. So low fertility rate, low birth rate, and also rapidly aging population are greatest concerns that Korea is experiencing. By 25, the number of elderly people exceed 10 million, and the baby boomer generation is expected to enter ultra-elderly society, and more than half of the Korean population will be an aging population. As you know, the aging population, they suffer from different kinds of disease, and the medical bills are quite huge burden. It is not only a social issues, but also it's a socio-economic issues. Therefore, cost effectiveness wise, we need to come up with the preemptive measures to protect ourselves. We need to come up with the policies that we can respond to the changing demographic changes. And the solution is a bio industry strengthening. If we further develop bio industry, definitely we can come up with the solutions. And to do that, we need to make continuous investment. If you look at the current speed, the OECD average per GDP, medical expenses, about 9%, 8 to 9%. is a growth rate of the medical expense per capita. And this year, for the first time, we will exceed the average of the OECD in terms of the growth rate of the medical expenses per capita. I'm deeply concerned about that. In light of that, Korea's healthcare and bio industry requires a new investment, and now's the time to worry about building a new horizon. Third point that I'd like to talk to you about is, if you look at the current R&D investment amount, we need to revisit the total amount. We need to increase the investment and improve the performance in the biohealth R&D. If you look at R&D investment amount, it's currently being deliberated by the National Assembly, so I'll not talk about that. But if you look at the R&D per capita, once again, focusing on the government expenditures on R&D, it was regarded as the highest level in the whole world. However, I believe that the R&D to the biohealth sector is relatively low. We require a quantitative investment. In case of the United States NIH, you can see that 1/4 of that is invested to the healthcare. And in terms of that, Korea lags far behind. And comparatively speaking, the amount of investment is insufficient. And are we able to achieve the goal that we have targeted? Are these R&D actually formed based on the target they want to achieve? I doubt that. In case of the number of the new product or commercialization, instead of making that as our ultimate goal, we need to make sure to achieve the medium goal. And the medium goal sometimes are chosen as an R&D goal. And once again, in the biomedical biohealth industry, maybe we were just focused on the medium goal, but we need to reflect ourselves, make sure that our ultimate goal is to be achieved. If you look at the current number of the products that we have developed in conducting clinical trials, sometimes cannot be done globally. And even if we commercialize that, sometimes getting access to the market, the distribution channel has very complicated problems. And overall, the corporate culture lags behind, and there are other issues as well. So in order to secure scale of business, it's another challenge that we need to work on. There are a couple of things that I'd like to recommend as a policy recommendation, especially if you look at the government R&D. Let me make a few suggestions. First of all, a multidisciplinary coordination system involving multiple government ministries is required. You heard the Vice Minister Park speech today. He talked about launching a new committee, and I'm sure that we have a high expectation, but we really need a government R&D governance. I've been working at the government sector for more than 3 decades, and I was involved in numerous government R&D activity, policy making, etc. But looking back, public officials working in different ministries, they are working too hard. Yes, it's a problem. Why? They're working hard, but it's a problem? Because they are so preoccupied with their own work, but not the other ministries' work. I mean, as I have been promoted to the high-ranking government officials, the recognitions of the needs of collaboration is lacking more and more. And in the stage of implementation, we need to make sure that the collaborations and cooperation among the government ministries are definitely required. We need to reflect our past activities. How can the R&D department scattered around in different ministry, how can we adjust the role, and how can we promote the collaborations? How can we enhance the effectiveness and efficiency of all of these ministries? And we need to come up with more coordinations, and we need to make sure that a whole government-wise decision-making must be built. Another thing is that the Ministry of Science and once again technology, they are playing the role of a player, and Ministry of Science and Technology playing the main role, the other ministries feel as a competition.
When we are proposing collaboration, I have to admit that we might be scared in making the policy recommendations. So we need to find a way to separate these issues. And if Bio Innovation Committee is launched, we have to find a way to resolve such fears. With the inauguration of such committee, it should be supported by decision making on investment, and it should be given the final authority and accountability for its work. In considering the R&D in biohealth industry, it needs mid to long-term investment, and there are need for proactive investment in some core areas where the private sector cannot make the investment on its own. So when this committee is established, that kind of achievement can be possible. And next, commercialization outcome needs to be accelerated by establishing this governance committee. And I believe we are interested in achieving tangible and substantial achievements and outcomes, and reinvestment and continuous investment needs to be considered more proactively, and related research through connected research assessment should be allowed to move on to the next step. Another thing is R&D cannot guarantee the success of policies. There should be various corporate support policies and clusters, and industrial level policies should all move hand in hand to make R&D more effective. Another point is the regulation. Biohealth industry is susceptible to various regulations. Given the character of the industry, without passing the regulation, there is no way the research can be introduced to the market. While I was working in the Ministry of Health and Welfare, we often talked about regulatory services, and many people found this ridiculous. In Korea, while I was working in the ministry, we used to produce various platform-based vaccines, but we never developed the vaccine on our own. But because we had the support, we were able to develop Korea's first vaccine in just 2 years. And this success was made possible because the regulatory bodies thought of this proactively, and all the stakeholders worked together to resolve problems in manufacturing and provided on-site consulting. And I think that has greatly reduced the lead time. Before I left the ministry, I created another support organization. Of course, we need regulation, but regulation should be more than just guaranteeing stability and safety, but we need to make it possible for researchers to plan this in advance and to be able to achieve safety and stability requirement as soon as possible. And if we can have that kind of regulatory services, I'm sure Korea's R&D efforts can move to the next level. So another recommendation is about human resources development. Many speakers have talked about the importance of having access to outstanding talents. And when I was the Minister of Health and Food and Drug Safety of Korea, I have asked my team members to draw this kind of resources requirements, but this is too complicated. There is lack of consistency, and there is a large overlap of workforce development programs across ministries. And there is a strong need to reorganize this program. Each ministry worked very hard on their own, but not necessarily with each other. We really need specialized people, professionals in doing this, in getting the government license, patents, and connecting them with the funding sources. We need specialists. And there is a strong need for such talent. And the government needs to be able to provide such talent. But if we can coordinate this further with one single workforce development program, I'm sure we'll be able to meet a lot of these needs. Well, my last 3 years in office were coincided with COVID-19. And when I retired, I had my retirement ceremony wearing facial mask. So that leaves me a lot of regrets about this, but what I think is most unfortunate is if we already have the capability to develop vaccine on our own, or if Korea had the reliable therapy for COVID-19, a lot of frustrations that I felt when I was in the office might have been mitigated, and we will be able to prevent the same thing from happening when we come across another pandemic. My predecessor won't have to go through the same level of frustration that I experienced. So if the government can really bring about some radical changes on the points that I have made, and unless we do that, my predecessor would have to face the same difficult experience as I did. The government ministry should be connected more effectively. They cannot achieve much by working on their own. We need to guarantee voluntary participation. So by participating, people should be able to enhance their own performance and the performance of the nation as a whole. First and foremost, the final evaluation criteria standards should focus on final outcome. They should be aligned with various policies for industrial support and infrastructure building so that the industry can truly achieve competitiveness. If we can do that, we can save my predecessor from a lot of unnecessary frustration and disappointments, and keep Korean citizens safer from the next pandemic. And by becoming more internationally competitiveness, well, the government's innovation will set the best innovation infrastructure for that.
Now, panel discussion and Q&A session based on today's presentation. So it takes some time, like a couple of minutes, for setting the table on the stage. We would appreciate for your kind understanding and patience. Please bear with us. So far, as you see earlier, with distinguished guests, domestic and foreign speakers, we have covered some key issues with 4 sessions on evolving biocluster by rediscovering the value of connectivity. So I believe it was meaningful time to explore ways for national bioclusters to develop into international community with leading domestic and foreign scholars. All right. And if you have any questions, please raise up your hand and our staff will hand over the microphone to you. If you take the microphone with you, please tell us your name and affiliation first before you give a Q&A question. And also, if you are online through the YouTube channel, please leave your opinion, any suggestion or questions in the chat box. Feel free to leave, and the speakers will answer them. Please note that due to time limit, some questions may not be accepted. So we ask for your kind understanding and some patience. Thank you for your cooperation. All right. The stage and some tables are setting now for Q&A session followed. With this panel discussion, I'd like to invite moderator and panelists onto the stage. And our honorable speaker, Dr. Kang-lim Kim, specially appointed professor of Graduate School of Public Health, Yonsei University, will be in charge of chair for this panel discussion. Please welcome him onto the stage. Welcome him again. Another round of applause. And I'd like to invite all panelists onto the stage altogether. Would you please come onto the stage? Ladies and gentlemen, please give them a big round of applause once again.
I think we are behind time and we are squeezed between lunch, so we need to speed up. So allow me to introduce myself again. And this is the first time I am staying behind the opening ceremony, and on top of that, I'm given this role as a moderator. My name is Kim Kang-lim. Let me introduce you to the panelists here today. Speaker, and we have 2 new panelists who have joined us now for the panel discussion. First, iPark Institute, Dr. Toshio Fujimoto, CEO of iPark Institute. And from Biocom, California, we have Senior Vice President Frederick Fox. And from Kent Surrey, Sussex, AHSN, we have Dr. Desmond Holden, CEO, and also Professor Kim Jong-jae from Seoul Asan Medical Center, and 2 new panelists have joined us today. President Chung Byung-sun from KISTEP has joined us, and from Yonsei University Medical School, we are joined by Professor Chung Jae-ho. So I believe we have received some questions offline and online. As soon as they are communicated to us, we will kick off the Q&A. And as for the 2 panelists who have just joined us, we would like to briefly listen to them before we start the Q&A. And then after we receive the Q&A, we will ask the panelist who has received the question to answer the question. So as for the 2 panelists, if you have any comments or questions, please go ahead. First, Professor Chung Byung-sun, the president of KISTEP.
Chairman, my name is Byung-sun Jang. I'm the president of KISTEP. KISTEP is Korea Institute of Science Technology Evaluation and Innovation Planning. So our institute supporting, or especially the Ministry of Science and ICT, and there is the Minister for Science and Technology Innovation. So I'm supporting that Vice Minister as a government agency. But before this position, I was actually the Vice Minister of Science At that time, I worked with Professor Kim Kang-nim. He was the Vice Minister at the time of Ministry of Health, and I was the Vice Minister, Minister of Science, and we worked together for COVID-19. Today, we hear 4 country cases. The first one is presented by Dr. Fujimoto about the Japanese case. He showed very impressive case of IPAC. Especially, it was started by Takeda, it's a private company, but they are now operating as a non-profit organization, so promoting the collaboration. And also, he raised good question about how to collaborate within Asian countries. So it is also my main concern. So we got a very good lesson from him. And second presentation about from the Dr. Fulch, the case of California life science, ecosystem, and biocommunity. I think he mentioned a very good point about essential element of successful case. In the first of all is the very advanced the research capacity is most important. Second one is human resources. The third one is the strong support from the government. It's a very important point. Also, most of all, he give importance about the collaborative culture. It's very important. So, and then next one is presented by Dr. Holden. Is mentioned about the British case. And especially, I'm very interested in that he give more focusing on the pooling side of the innovation, especially the demand from the community, local community is very important. So when we think about the bio-cluster, we must think about how to solve the actual local problem. It's the most important point. He mentioned very well. And also he mentioned that most people should get support from this bio cluster, and he said that no person should be leave behind. It's a very important point. And last one, presented by the Asan Medical Center. I think that the hospital is the most important point in Korea in the innovation system in medical area. So he tried to how to support the hospital to the very high quality of innovation, research activities in Korea. He showed very good example, and I'm very impressed. And last one is the Professor Kim Kang-nim. He suggested that government policies for supporting biohealth innovation in Korea, and especially he made some suggestions about how to make good government policies for the future for promoting the biohealth industry. Especially he mentioned that government coordination organization. So I disagree with you about this point. 여기서 좀 한글로 말씀드려야 될 것 같은데.
Let me say in Korean. Yes, Ministry of Science and Technology take initiative to lead diverse innovation work. Yeah, we have created Innovation Center under the umbrella of the Ministry of Science and Technology. As you know, in the R&D activities, it's actually too much fragmented. Ministry of Science and Technology, yes, we do a lot of R&D activity, but merely it's about 30%. Every single ministry in Korea is in charge of R&D. As soon as you regard R&D as a policy, then it's a failure. The government role is just support, and R&D should be done by the researcher. So even though we have the Innovation Center under the umbrella of the Ministry of Science and Technology, but the other ministries don't recognize the function of that. So instead of building another committee, I strongly recommend that we use the existing organizations and then make sure that all of these work in a harmonious way. As Professor Kim mentioned, collaborative research and coordination is critical. That's more important than anything else. That's my view.
the researchers contact FDA, they always supporting how to consider the regulation aspect in the early stage of researches. So I think that Dr. Kim mentioned that the Korean KDA also, FDA also, will be innovated for the giving very efficient and very collaborative support to the researchers. It's a good point. And also he mentioned that the human resource development is very important point. So as the government agency for coordinating science and technology innovation activities, I want to make lastly one point. Today we discuss about how to promote the bio-cluster around the world. Like that, in Korea now we give much importance to the international activities at the moment. So in order to make our innovation system become worldwide, the front end, we need to collaborate with more with foreign key scientists, especially USA and United Kingdom or European countries, other European countries. So from next year, the key step is as a support of the planning in the ministry level. We give much more, give more funding or much more the regulatory framework for promoting collaboration with foreign countries. Especially, we want to revise the R&D basic law in. Especially, we allow the foreign principal investors to apply for the Korean research program. So probably from next year, from other countries, from USA or European countries, other scientists may apply for the Korean research program as a principal investors. So it makes big changes for the future. I think that we need more collaboration with the international community. So in order to do that, we discussed today lots of things. So I hope that after finalizing this session, we get some good insight how to we encourage more collaboration with other countries. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, President Chung. I won't summarize, but let me correct one thing. KFDA, it's MFDS in Korea, Ministry of Food and Drug Safety, MFDS. So I'll give the microphone to Dr. Chung. So could you please be brief and concise? Thank you for the introduction. I'm Chung Jae-ho from Yonsei University College of Medicine. Well, I think the reason why I am here is because our school is trying to build a hospital-led bio cluster in Songdo city, and I'm in charge of the project. So we are dealing with the theme of global linking bioclusters. So what is the biocluster and why we need a cluster for bioindustry? As you're well aware, we have heard about graph theories, and it is about node and edges, connecting them to create a network. So a node or a dot is something many people have talked about. We need academic institutions, research centers, government, funders, and the corporations that need such technology to make a solid and productive network. We need to have high density. The density of nodes and edges should be made higher. And the best way to increase the density is to create a cluster for bioindustry. So that's how I understand bioclusters. And there are many nodes in the region that needs to be connected together. These entities exist on their own, but the edge is about having resources, human resource, funding, financial resource for bio-industry investment innovation are the most important thing. The government needs to innovate the regulation. Companies, universities continuously training and educating the talented researchers so that they can resolve all the difficult challenges in health of the humanity. So clusters can make network more productive and solid. So that's why we need bioclusters in Korea. Basically, in the network will have functional goals. So to enable that, we need financial support, regulatory support. And as I've said, globally linking bioclusters. Korea needs to think about making this globally linking bioclusters, and I've learned a lot from all the speakers today. Then basically, how can we link the bioclusters together to achieve more value? And I look forward to today's panel discussion. So that's all I have to say today. Thank you. Before I ask questions to the speakers, if anyone in the audience has questions to the speakers or panelists, please raise your hand. We'll open the floor to the audience now. If you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll pass your microphone. Well, this is my first debut as a moderator, and having no question from the audience, I'm not sure whether this is commonly the case or a very abnormal case.
Question to the Dr. Fulci. In our presentation, we discussed about a Boston biocluster. So, and current President Yoon give huge importance on collaboration with Boston biocluster. So this time we made give fund for collaborating with the Boston biocluster. So can you give some advice? How do we make more frequent collaboration with the clusters in the Boston or in the San Francisco? So you may make it a little bit helpful for us to get some advice about that.
Yeah, thanks. It's okay. So I understand the question. So I would say Boston is one of the oldest cities in America and is the oldest biotech big cluster. So obviously there are long-standing partnerships globally with Boston, especially in Europe, because of its proximity and the people, some of the same people coming from Europe. So I think the European and Boston connections are very strong and very old, but there is no reason why Japanese, Korean partnerships with Boston cannot thrive, and I know that they are already doing so. KIDI has offices in Boston, and I think that's a very good way to do it. So having people in person, representatives of the cluster, if you will, in person in Boston, I think is making a big difference and will continue to do so. And so perhaps I would suggest the same thing in California, San Francisco, or San Diego, having folks from KIDI or somewhere else, perhaps another organization present in those markets will be very helpful to foster these collaborations. But I do know that folks in Boston and even the National Bio Organization in Washington, D.C., think very highly of Korea as a strategic partner moving forward. In fact, Korea has been the top international delegate at the last 2 Bio International Conventions, which is really impressive. It's saying a lot. So I think there is a lot of energy nationally with the United States, but also in Boston, San Francisco, and San Diego to partner. And the how to partner is happening right now. It's why I'm here often and why our company is making connections between companies. And it will take the shape of funding in both directions, research collaborations, sharing of best practices. The FDA and KFDA are talking, different government and association type groups are all collaborating, so it is happening. It's encouraging. Does that answer your
정 교수님.
네, 좀
To Dr. Fujimoto Toshio, I have a question. The IPAC that I understand is not led by the government, but led by the private company called Takeda. That's what I understood. More than 100 talented companies are tenant. Of course, Takeda played the role of anchor, and more than 2,000 collaboration cases. So-called edge was formed, and because of the edge or competitiveness was formed, the productivity is huge. Takeda, what did it provide? I mean, more than 100 tenants have entered this cluster. Can you tell us your secret?
Thank you very much for the questions. So firstly, the IPAC Institute is not a NPO, non-profit. We are kind of profit organization, and we are charging companies and organization upon our services. So in a fair way, for small startups or academia, very cheap. And then for big companies, maybe a relatively expensive way. Yeah, in that way that we charge our services. So anyway, your question about how can we do or catalyze facilitation in a big way? It's a try and error. Initially, as I have shown you, our collaboration, number of collaboration are so small. Only Takeda was there, and Takeda-related companies, small companies, are resided at IPAC. But once that other big companies join our ecosystem, then that they drove a partnership quite independently from Takeda. So that once that couple of big companies came to IPAC, then that network expands exponentially, automatically, without our involvement. So initially, all the events we are doing currently, like 3 times a week, kind of interactive events at IPAC. Initially, everything was done by IPAC, our staff. But now, only 1/10 or 1/3 was catalyzed, facilitated by IPAC. So rest of the activities are done voluntarily by the tenant companies, quite independent. So that the key is to have anchors, and many anchors as possible. And anchor needs to be diverse, not be one technology. But rather, of course, that we need a limitation for life science, but still, for life science, as I said, the many technologies are emerging right now, AI, digital, medtech. So everybody needs to kind of be there, needs to be there for innovation. So that diverse anchor tenants is the key, which drives partnership.
괜찮으면 제가
I want to ask a question to Dr. Fultz.
one thing maybe about anchors?
All right, okay.
Oh, just really quick, one thing about anchors. I would say there have been a couple anchors in San Diego to make it a world-class cluster. None of them have been more important than Illumina being an anchor. From Illumina has been over 100 companies formed. We help, but mostly on its own, like Dr. Fujimoto said, Illumina has now a presence in Seoul. That is very good, in my opinion. So companies like Illumina with tools, future-facing tools, will be very important. So yes, I would agree, the more anchors, the better. It's very important.
제가 풀츠한테
I have a question to Dr. Fultz. When you have so many tenants in the cluster, these companies are profit-making entities. So they might have to compete over talents and resources. So what kind of role did Biocom California play to encourage them to collaborate? Can you give us an example of that? That would be really helpful.
This question is on you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. So collaboration, very important. between the companies, also maybe between government entities, as we are hearing today. So there are many different forms of collaboration. I will say, honestly, the thing where the companies maybe compete the most and do not collaborate as much is about talent. So they're very helpful with research collaborations and facility sharing of best practices on how to do things the right way. But when it comes to hiring talent, it's not as collaborative, very competitive. So what we do is we work with all the universities throughout the state to develop the curriculum to train tomorrow's workforce. So not just biology and chemistry, but AI, biomanufacturing, new technologies, make sure the curriculum is in the universities to train them to be appropriate workforce. I hope that helps.
One addition is that, actually inside IPARC, there are several or many cases that researchers has changed jobs inside IPARC tenant companies.
Oh, oh, really?
It's good for researchers, actually. They have options where to do research.
네. 자, 우리 뭐 여기
So, any questions from the audience? Oh. Is there any question between the panelists or speakers? Professor Kim? I was told that there will be a panel discussion, so I thought about what I should be sharing during the panel discussion. And I would like to make a suggestion, taking this opportunity. When I was in training, I was told that you have to share a restaurant to encourage collaboration, and if you can share a restroom between labs, that can be helpful for collaboration. So physical proximity is really critical for successful collaboration. So we are joined by presidents of K-MediHub and K-BioHealth, and we have bioclusters all around the country. And for those clusters, my recommendation is that when we look at the scale and activity of R&D, Seoul, Gwangju, Busan, it would be nice if we could have regional branches in those major cities, because the entire South Korea is smaller than one of the large states in the United States, so entire country can be called a cluster. But geographical proximity is really important for successful research. So we can even go into a school or into a hospital if we can have access to equipment and talents. So clusters can be inside a research organization or an existing hospitals with the help from the government. Instead of just emphasizing economic independence, if we can find practical ways to satisfy the infrastructure needs, that would be really helpful. And as for the anchors, these two organizations can be a major anchors for R&D around the country. Thank you. I think that's a great recommendation. We have some people who can make a decision on that, but I don't want to put them on the spot by making them to make a decision right away. But I can sincerely urge you to do sincere deliberation on this recommendation. Professor Chung, would you like to go?
Would you like to begin? Well, frankly speaking, my hospital, Yonsei University College of Medicine, we are research oriented, and I believe that it is very helpful. And Dr. Kim Gang-lip, you went to the United States, you look around how they are doing, but I guess one cycle has been completed. What I mean by that is what you learn outside Korea has contributed greatly to Korea's growth. So, Professor Kim Gang-lip, can you share with us what you have learned and what you have applied? Well, very difficult question to me. Very difficult question. 2009, for about 2 years, I've been pondering upon this issue for some time, and Korea has a great potential, especially competent researchers. And how can we carry out and utilize their talents and competency and apply that to collaborations and also the accumulated data and experiences. Definitely looking at this, we have a great competitiveness. How can we turn into a platform? And then based on that foundation, we can develop our biohealth. And that's how we have built a Korea research-based network, and the model that we have chosen is Japan, US, and UK. In case of Japan, I went to Tokyo University College of Medicine and Anderson University and San Francisco. In case of United States, in case of UK, I went to Oxford University to learn and to apply back to Korea, and I came to conclusion that Korea can definitely achieve a competitiveness to the level of these countries. What I mean by that is the demand and enthusiasms about R&D in the College of Medicines and hospitals are huge. For more than 500 people as a participants, they joined the conference. They never stopped asking questions about how to boost the R&D activity in the body's health industry. So one cycle has been completed, and now's the time to take further leap into the future as a second cycle. We have a tons of work to be done. First is because of the biohealth or healthcare industry, the way we make investment, the methodology needs to be revamped, I believe. What I mean by that is we have no choice but to spend a lot of time when we make an R&D investment, and we need to create a culture where we forgive if they make mistakes. And inherently, if we don't allow mistakes to be made, then biohealth industry platform will not be able to produce a tangible result. It will put a huge restrictions on an innovative activity. So when we launch a second turn or second cycle of the biohealth industry R&D activity, we need to make sure that now's the time that hospital-led research platform should be strengthened and supported by the government. We need to seriously consider about that. So quantitative investment is important, but also qualitative, especially hospital-led research needs to be done. I hope it answers.
So I heard there's a question from the audience. President Cha. K-Biohealth in Korean is Osung Medical Innovation Foundation. So we were established based on a special law enacted by the government to promote medical industry. And Dr. Kim Jong-jae has made a very poignant point that we should deliberate on. And as you're well aware, I work closely with the leaders of all research medical centers around the country to draw future plans for collaboration between research medical centers around the country. But connecting the nodes with the edge is really challenging in Korea, because even with a small physical distance, that creates a large psychological distance which is difficult to overcome. And in the Bay Area cluster in the United States, traveling distance is much farther than the distance between Seoul and Osong, but the Bay Area cluster is successful for various reasons, sharing and co-location, sharing cafeteria and rest room is really critical. I've been to iPark cluster and I talked to Dr. Fujimoto about this many times. So that's a great spot to do that. And since K-BioHealth, it's designed to promote medical industry, I really have to work hard to make this research-driven medical centers successful. And we have to go back to the original goal to become successful service provider, CRDOs. And to do that, we have to figure out with whom and where we are going to work together. K-BioHealth is working together with all the stakeholders. And as Dr. Kim Jong-jae has suggested, we are thinking about creating a branch or front office in another location. And Dr. Kim Jong-jae is the chairperson of the consultative body of research-driven hospitals. Thank you very much. I have a question to Dr. Fujimoto.
Unlike other cluster, in your case, it's a profit organization built on a huge mega size of the territory. It was quite interesting. I asked this question last time when I met you, but in order to achieve break-even point, you must have a unique strategy, right? Not only fee that you charge, but what kind of business model did you operate it? I mean, you have this huge territory. How do you pay the operation cost? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Two part, a business part and the purpose part. The first purpose part, our vision. I have already shown you our vision, but more precisely, we have been, in the last 5 years, we have been aiming to be Mecca and Switzerland. Two things. Switzerland means neutral place, because if Takeda dominates everything, no other company can join. So that I have many cases that I've been to big companies, CEOs, and said, could your kind of research location, locate at iPark? Then that everybody said at that time, no. Why can we go under Takeda? So that's why that we are trying to be a neutral place and span out from Takeda. Not Takeda right now. Our parent company is a fund, real estate fund. Takeda is a minority as a shareholder. So that we are creating Switzerland, where many diverse companies can gather with comfort. That's one thing. A second strategy is to be Mecca. It's a science Mecca, where attractive researchers can come or longing to come to iPark. So that for that purpose, we are kind of sharing kind of cutting-edge information, technology information from iPark in collaboration with tenant companies. So these two kind of the aims made our strategy. I mean, Mecca and Switzerland. And second thing is much difficult one, to make ends meet. Because running an operation, institute like iPark is so costly, expensive. Buying a kind of equipment device and maintain it. So that mainly that kind of cost is kind of earned by rent fee from big companies, as I said, in a relatively fair or expensive way, and for academia, startups, very small way. So with the rent, and also we charge service. With these two revenue, we earn money enough for our daily operation, but not in a very, very profitable way right now.
Okay, thank you.
So I believe there was another question. Thank you very much for all the wonderful presentation. I have a question to Dr. Holden from the UK. Dr. Holden, the previous two speakers have talked about biotechnology and the economic activities related to bioindustry, but Dr. Holden has talked about the UK strength, public health network, and how science and bioscience produced technologies can be delivered successfully to the medical industry, the public sector, and creating opportunity through that. So public health network. And the speaker from the US and Japan have talked about startups and signals for boosting the. So what is the future direction for your efforts?
Thank you for the question. I think our future direction is to do more of the linking together based on the learning of what works. So for our beginnings, we didn't work very well as a network. We were 15 individual organizations. We weren't particularly competitive with each other. We just didn't really acknowledge that each other existed. So we were able to do things locally, but if something was discovered and there was a benefit in Manchester in the north of England, it wasn't visible to me and I wasn't pushing it for the population that I serve. So I think we will work more as a network, which through this conversation I'm thinking sounds like a cluster, the way that we talk to each other, the way we meet, the way we share ideas, the way talent moves around. I think we will do more of that. I think the discovery element, the universities are also learning. So one of the things that the ARCs have brought, the applied research collaborations, is to think about what is the benefit of the discovery. So when I was an academic, it was about winning money, publishing, going to conferences, talking about your results. But it wasn't about how is what I have discovered affecting the people in my antenatal clinic who are pregnant. And it was, the two things were separate. And I think there's much more interest now in the academics, certainly in the universities that I work with, about how does my discovery affect people's health and care? And then who is it affecting and who is it not affecting? So whose life is it improving and whose life is it not improving? So I think there's a much better conversation now about how you turn that discovery into the benefit for people, which I think is very healthy. So I think that's what we'll be doing more of. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, time is up, but I think there was another person who had his hand risen, President Yang. We are called K-Medi Hub in English, and in Korea it's Daegu Gyeongbuk Advanced Medical Industry Promotion Foundation, and I'm Yang Ji-young, the president of K-Medi Hub. We've heard from speakers from Japan, the United States, and the UK. Thank you very much, as well as all the panelists. Well, I wasn't planning on making a comment, but Dr. Kim Jong-jae has made a recommendation. And I have to make another suggestion in line with that. Since early 2000, the Korean government has designated the advanced medical industry as one of the future growth engine industry for the Korean economy. The Ministry of Health and Ministry of Science and ICT, about 4 ministries have worked together to establish K-Medi Hub and K-Bio Health, of which the president have just talked about. So the 4 government ministries work together to establish these 2 hubs. And by 2030, there will be massive amount, 4.5 trillion won worth of investment going into these clusters. In Korea, I believe that there are 25 clusters around Korea. Some of them are more autonomous. Some of them rely on local government support. But clusters that are supported directly by the central government, I think there are only 2 of them, our K-Medi Hub and K-Biohealth. But thanks to the overall interest in the industry, other parties like the Ministry of Health and Welfare is very much interested in establishing this kind of national hubs, but we need to concentrate, pick and choose, because we cannot support all the clusters. We should be able to make more efficient investment so that we can get the maximum return for the investment. There should be national level coordination of investment at the central government level. And President Kim Kwang-nim, and thanks to the advice of excellent advisors, I hope the related innovation committee can really find the best way to coordinate all the overlapping investment between the medical clusters. Now, as we are approaching the deadline, I think it's like the floodgate of question has opened, but we would have to wrap up now. In the morning today, we have talked about bioclusters in Korea, but we need to find a way to go beyond South Korea and into the global market. So we have talked about how to break ground for R&D in the bioscience, and the focus was how to make the connectivity stronger, make it more effective.
Comment and contribution. Thanks again.
I would like to thank everyone in the audience, and I hope we can all continue to show our interest and support for the biohealth industry.
Please give them a huge round of applause once again. This is the official end of Seoul Bioeconomy Forum 2023. It was a great time to share many stories under the theme of global linking bioclusters driven by digital biotechnology. So we look forward to your continuous interest and support next year. Thank you.